Hi there, everyone. Welcome to this live post-game edition, divisional playoffs. Bills, 27-25 winners over the Baltimore Ravens. I'm Adam Benigni, WGRZ-TV. Sal Maiorana of the Rochester Democrat and Chronicle joins us from the press box at Highmark Stadium. And I'll tell you what, turnovers are always a huge factor, and they were the story of this game. I mean, you look at the stat sheet, the Ravens outgained Buffalo, Sal, 416 to 273. But the three takeaways and some Raven miscues, some epic ones actually, are the difference in this football game. Not to take anything away from the game plan and how Buffalo executed it, but I mean, just incredible. They're on to the AFC Championship game to face the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, Adam, I mean, it was like so many Bills games this season where the defense bended and bended and bended, broke a couple times, but ultimately it was the takeaways. This defense thrived on takeaways all season, and we've talked about this. You can't rely on takeaways, as much as the Bills have, but somehow they've been able to survive by doing it, by being able to get big plays in the biggest moments in the game. And the three takeaways tonight were the difference. I mean, the first one, they didn't score after that one. They had to punt. But the second one led to a touchdown. And then the third one led to the final, the field goal that put the game at 8 points and made as Josh Allen said, it made the Ravens go get a complete full score, meaning touchdown, 2-point conversion. And sure enough, it was just enough because they made it way too easy to get the touchdown, and then Mark Andrews dropped the 2-point pass. Shocking. Could not believe it happened. Yeah. You can almost consider that a takeaway. That's how seismic that play was. So the Bills survive. They move on, and they have cleared the demonic divisional round obstacle, at least for 2024.
Yeah, 10 points off turnovers. Clearly the difference in what winds up being a 2-point game. We're going to get into all of it. We are live here on YouTube. We invite your questions and comments as we're going to throw down some of the key factors and plays that led to the outcome in this one. First, quick word from the sponsor here. We'll take care of that. Bet Online continues to be the world's most trusted betting platform and your number one source for online betting. The largest selection of odds on everything from football, the NBA, NHL, college basketball, and UFC. Head to Bet Online today, and don't forget to use the promo code BLEAV. That's BLEAV, and you get a welcome bonus on your first deposit. Sal, I suppose we should, go with the defense here to lead this, because that was where, the undersized front, could they handle Baltimore? And I got to give these guys tremendous credit, especially in the first half. The Ravens got things rolling, obviously, in the third quarter. But let's talk about the personnel that the Bills had back in this game and look at the difference that they made. Matt Milano, right? The pressure that resulted in the wrap pick early in the game. He had the deflection on the 2-point conversion. Terrell Bernard, look at the impact he had on the Andrews fumble late as well. I mean, clearly, I don't know if they win that game back in week 4. There was a lot of comparison made to it, but clearly these were key players. Taron Johnson as well didn't play in that game back in week 4. And you saw the difference that it made in what I thought was, especially in the first half, with the aggression, a very well-designed game plan by Sean McDermott and Bobby Babich.
Yeah, I mean, look, you get players like that back. Taron Johnson was the other guy they didn't have. Remember, they also lost Taylor Rapp in that first game, and the same thing happened almost the same time of the game. They had to play without him, so that hurt. That put Cole Bishop back on the field, and, there were some moments where that didn't look so good. They even lost Taron Johnson briefly in the fourth quarter, and Cam Lewis was on the field. So it was weird that some of the same things were going on in the fourth quarter with the same personnel. But, yeah, ultimately getting those guys back, especially Milano and Bernard, was a huge factor in this game. And I also think, too, they were better on the defensive line. They didn't have I've never really been a big Jordan Phillips fan, but they had him in this game. That's 340 pounds of human being. So that does help. I don't think he's a great player by any stretch. He doesn't play a whole lot, but he can make a difference with his size, and they didn't have him. the first game. Quentin Jefferson wasn't here the first game. He basically takes Dwayne Carter off the field, a rookie. So, yeah, their personnel was vastly different in this one compared to the game back in September. And it was, it was pretty clear it was helpful. Now, that all being said, really, Adam, obviously they win the game at the end with the things they did, but they pretty much, I thought, won this game in the first half because the Ravens could not get their running game going. Derrick Henry had 21 yards in the first half, and with the turnovers, that enabled the Bills to get that 21-10 lead. And, man, they needed every one of those 11 points to pull this thing out. So the game really was, in the first half, I think the biggest difference was Buffalo's defense playing so well, getting the turnovers and stopping, their running game and really keeping it contained.
Let's talk a little bit about how they did that, because we had speculated we might see some 4-3, and Sean McDermott talked about that after the game. They came up with that combination. Things got away from them, obviously, in the third quarter as the Ravens started to impose some things. But you remember when we had Matt Sims on, it was, try and keep Baltimore guessing. Kind of confusion would be a key factor in the game. And I thought the way this thing was designed and executed, you talked about the first half. It was just huge. And I think McDermott and Babbage deserve a fair share of credit for that.
Yeah, look, I don't know if it was weird, Adam, because you're watching this game, and when they were on defense, there was a lot of switching up and running around, and Bernard going crazy, calling signals, while Lamar Jackson is actually barking out his cadence. So I don't know. We didn't ask McDermott this. Maybe it'll come up tomorrow when Babbage is on the Zoom call. But I don't know if they were doing that on purpose to maybe confuse the Ravens. But there was a lot of movement on Buffalo's defense pre-snap. And again, I don't know if it was part of the plan to confuse him, but I noticed it. It was very noticeable. I hope it wasn't confusion because at times it looked like it was confusion. But, they survived. They made the plays when they had to. But again, those takeaways were just humongous. I don't know if they can keep living like this. The Chiefs are another team that, Baltimore was not a team that turned the ball over. Kansas City isn't either. So you just wonder if they've got one more of these games in them. But it was impressive what they did on defense, despite the fact, like you said, Ravens kind of owned the game statistically. 7 of 10 on third down, 1 of 1 on fourth down. There were a lot of moments in this game where it could have gone sideways, and the Bills made enough plays to win.
Well, you have to think, if this thing goes to overtime, if it did, if Andrews hangs onto that ball, the way they were moving it, what they got to in the third quarter and in the second half, that doesn't bode necessarily well. But the Bills made the play. That first half was so key. You mentioned the third down statistics. That continues to be a problem. And we're on the subject of coaching here. Let's talk about the decision to go for the field goal to put them up 27-19, to give them the 8-point lead.
Yeah.
I listened to McDermott's rationale, and of course there's going to be two sides to that discussion. I didn't mind it. I understood at that point, make it an 8-point game. Given the down and distance there, it's fourth down, obviously. It was a long, it was 2+ yards. And McDermott said that was the criteria. If it's 1 yard, he's going for it. 2, he has to make a decision. Anything beyond that, he elected to kick a field goal. And that's a decision. I thought it was the right move at the time. And it ultimately, in the end, it worked out.
What I didn't like there, Adam, I didn't like the play calling on second and third down.
Correct.
Because Allen, I guess I shouldn't say the second down play because Allen did I think he gained 5 yards. He got to the 2-yard line. But I don't know. The third down play I wasn't a big fan of. I thought they should have got into their tush push at that point. And had they gained, if they didn't get in, but they had gained a yard, they would have forced Baltimore to take their final timeout. And then I would have thought about going for the touchdown on 4th and 1, just because he's been so unstoppable on that tush push. But they ended up at the 3-yard line. The third down play, if I'm correct, I think they lost a yard. So it was back to the 3-yard line. And then you can't go for it. Then he had to kick the field goal, and I was all for that. I just didn't like Brady's 2 play calls that led up to that. I really thought they were going to take it in for the game-clinching touchdown. And as soon as he kicked it, your mind starts racing because I even tweeted. I tweeted it after Baltimore made the first down of that possession. I said, this is coming down to a 2-point play. The Bills are going to have to stop. And sure enough, they moved right down the field. Here's the thing about the 2-point play, though, Adam. People tend to think that, it's no problem. They're just going to make the 2 points like it's an extra point. You score a touchdown. Now you put the ball at the 2-yard line. You essentially have to score another touchdown. Even though it's only counting 2 points, you still have to get down where it's the hardest area on the field to score because everyone's bunched in within 2 yards of the ball. It's a tough thing to do. There was a stat that got tweeted out to make this point. Would you believe, and I couldn't believe when I saw this stat, Lamar Jackson in his career since 2018, he's 12 out of 28 scoring the 2-point conversion. That's 9th worst in the NFL in that span. A guy like Lamar Jackson, who is a dual threat, you would think would be automatic on 2-pointers, and he's not. And here again. Now, this one they should have converted because the guy was wide open, and
you can't hang that one on him. Can't hang that
one. Absolutely. But it just proves the point that 2-pointers are not automatic. That's why kicking the field goal was the right call because it made the Ravens essentially score 2 touchdowns to get the 8 points, and they only got the 1, and that was the difference in the game.
Yep, agreed. I mean, you kind of referenced this earlier, but I'm still, like picking my jaw up off my desk here still and kind of putting it back in place. Yeah. The fact that Andrews dropped that.
Couldn't believe it.
After the Bernard forced fumble and recovery earlier.
Yeah. I mean, that's one of the best tight ends in the league. Yeah. I mean, without question, he's one of the best guys in the league. He stepped up because they didn't have Zay Flowers in this game. Bateman got hurt during the game, and it was Mark Andrews, the other tight end, too, likely. Those were the guys who stepped up for the Ravens. So for him to fail on 2 humongous plays, I mean, that was. I asked Allen, was he stunned? And I think he kind of was. I think he was feeling very fortunate because I think he wasn't going to say his defense failed there, but they did. He was wide open. They got lucky. They got lucky there. But hey, you got to have luck to win these games, Adam. Right? Yep. You can be better than a team. You can outplay a team. You still need luck sometimes to win in the NFL, and the Bills had some tonight.
All right, Gerald Nunn just in with a comment here. Gerald, thanks for staying up late with us. I'm surprised the Bills didn't throw more against that Ravens defense. Let's take a look at Allen's numbers. I mean, 16 of 22, 127 yards. Yeah, he rushed for a couple of touchdowns. And look, we knew they wanted to run the football, that they needed balance. They wind up with 147 yards rushing. Cook, 17 carries, 67 yards. Very effective, especially in the first half, right? But I thought that the Ravens would be more vulnerable in the secondary, but it's that conservative sort of approach. And look, they protected the football, right? They win the turnover battle 3-0 and ultimately the game. But I thought that the Bills could have been a little bit more aggressive and had some success through the air against this secondary.
Yeah, I agree. I was saying it throughout the game. I said, why aren't they putting the ball in Allen's hands here? I understand they wanted to run the ball. You and I talked about it during the week. They wanted to win time of possession. They needed to keep that Baltimore offense off the field because they knew if Lamar and Derrick Henry possessed the ball and sustained drives, it was probably going to be a long night for the Bills. So that was part of the plan. I was just surprised that against the NFL's number 1 run defense, they kept trying to hammer it away and not give Allen opportunities to go up against a pass defense that has been better in the second half of the season, but was also better because they played some pretty shitty offenses in their last 8 weeks of the season. So I thought the Bills would have had opportunities in the pass game, and it really didn't work out that way. I was surprised. And, you're not always going to get away with a game like this, Adam, when you don't let Josh Allen be Josh Allen. I thought Joe Brady kind of had the reins on him a little bit tonight, and they're a little bit lucky they survived.
That response also echoes a comment from Jim and Sarah that came a little bit earlier. The Bills were conservative most of the game on offense, felt too conservative in both drives in the third quarter, let them back into the game. So we're not alone in that sentiment, obviously, among the fan base.
That third quarter was disappointing because, they had the chance for the coveted double dip, right? Right. I thought the drive at the end of the first half, that was a masterclass. I think they took over with 3:43 to go, and you knew, they wanted to take it all off. You didn't want to give Lamar any chance at the end, even if you'd scored early. They worked the ball downfield so beautifully on that drive. The time management was great. McDermott gets all this crap from fans about time management. I thought he managed it. It was a masterclass on that drive. So they go in 21-10 at the half, and you're thinking, man, they can come out here, do that again, and get the double dip and make it 28-10. They're going to be sitting pretty. However, the Bills, you could look this up, Adam, the double dip doesn't always work out for the Bills. They can usually get one half of it, but they rarely get the second half of it. So the 3 and out, and then the second possession was just as bad. That let the Ravens right back into the game. So I was starting to think, man, things had turned in that third quarter, but they were able to pull themselves up and get themselves righted and scored enough to win.
Yeah,
Tyler Bass, by the way, they scored 6 points in the second half. Tyler Bass with that 51-yard field goal.
Absolutely.
That was humongous kick. What a great kick on a night like tonight. It was awesome.
Right. For all the questions, analysis, and the history involving him, back to the divisional round loss to the Chiefs last year. Credit to Tyler Bass for delivering without question. All right. And you know what? We had talked, was Jerry Ostrowski with us earlier in the week, who had mentioned intangibles. That was a word he used, right? And, they can say they don't listen to social media, whatever. The outside noise, I think, is what Josh had said, or whatever. But they heard it. Too undersized up front, whatever. I mean, McDermott kind of referenced that. I don't know. This is a team that, in terms of the intangibles, right, before we get to the matchup with the Chiefs here, and a quick thought on that, they've been able to use whatever the outside, they let enough of it in to use it to their advantage. And that was, I don't know how much you can measure it, but that was a factor in how they came out and executed in this game, I think.
Look, you get your ass beat 35-10 by this team back in week 4. That's going to sting for a while. And I'm sure I think Bills fans did not want to see the Ravens. That was the one team that everybody wanted to avoid in this playoff run. I think the Bills probably privately were thinking, yeah, we want that team. We want to get another crack at that team in our building. And they did a good enough job in the regular season to, win 13 games and make sure that game was going to be here. And they learned a lot of lessons. I mean, they always say they learn from every game, but I think they definitely learned plenty of lessons in that game. And I thought the game plan, especially on offense, the way they attacked it, like I said, I thought they could have used the passing game more, but ultimately I do like the way they showed confidence in their run game, Adam, even though Baltimore is so good on run defense. I asked Spencer Brown about it, and he said, we weren't scared. We weren't scared by that. There were some things we knew we had to be sharp on. We know how big they were up front, but we weren't afraid of it. We wanted to attack them, and they did. They did a great job, especially in the first half. So you got to give them a lot of props. I mean, yes, they hear social media. They're full of shit when they say they don't. And I know that they pay attention to it. There's no longer bulletin boards. That's old school. But, there is definitely material that goes up and it gets around in the meetings. They'll put them up on the screens. This asshole said this, and this asshole said this. Yeah, they hear that stuff, and they used it as motivation tonight, and it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, you know what? I'll you just made a point, about they wanted to run the football and they were able to. This team's ability to dictate. It comes down to that, right? Yeah. Dictate what you want to do. And they were able to do enough of it in the first half, right, from a defensive standpoint, but from the run game standpoint as well on that side of the ball. Credit to the Buffalo Bills. So now it gets down to another matchup with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I don't know, I kind of thought Baltimore would be a tougher matchup for this Bills team than Kansas City. And in watching that win over the Texans, you can't get away from the 8 sacks, right? Yep. On Stroud. You can't get away from a lot of the self-inflicted stuff that did the Texans in, especially on the special team stuff and all of that. But, then you see the production and the connection between Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce, right? And finding a way to get it done. I mean, it's a wonderful opportunity to go in and exercise demons next week and get over that hump. But there are demons, and they're real in the form of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Yeah, look, Houston's not a very good team. Their offense just isn't good enough without Stephon Diggs and Tank Dell. They were never going to be able to do much against that Kansas City defense. The 8 sacks, their offensive line is putrid. I mean, that might be one of the worst offensive lines for a playoff team that I've ever seen. So this Buffalo team, look, Spagnuolo is a master, and he's great at the pressures and the blitzes that he brings. But this Buffalo offensive line is not going to collapse like Houston's, not to mention the fact that Josh Allen's a better athlete than C.J. Stroud. So that part of it, I'm not too concerned about. Will there be, moments when Spagnuolo is going to get the best of him? Sure, that happens in every game. But it's not going to be like that Houston game the other day. They just basically they cratered against the pressure in the fourth quarter. So that's going to be a big thing for the Bills to be wary of. But they handled them great, I thought, in the game here when they beat them 30-21. I expect them to do the same thing there. And then on the other side of the ball, look, the Chiefs put up 23 points against the Texans. That was no great shakes. Houston's defense is I would say that Houston's defense is better than Buffalo's. They have really good cornerbacks. They're not better probably than Buffalo's, but they have very good cornerbacks. What they really missed in that game was their safeties. They had, I think, Petrie and Ward were both out. That was really what hurt them. Now the Bills might not have Taylor Rapp. The difference is their defensive line is much better than Buffalo. So that will be a thing the Bills are going to have to overcome. But I don't see the Chiefs as a team that's going to explode and score 38 points against the Bills, Adam. I just don't. And I trust the Bills' offense to be able to outscore Kansas City's offense. I give the Bills I will probably pick the Bills to win this game next week.
I'm going to pick them. We'll see how things unfold during the course of the week. But right now, as we sit here, just past midnight, I'm going to pick Buffalo to win that game. I mean, I think so. Look, they did as good a job of containing Patrick Mahomes in that first regular season meeting, the win at Highmark. I mean, that defensive front, I think that this matchup, there was so much concern with how the Bills would deal with the Ravens and that offensive line and Derrick Henry in the run game that they kind of had to morph a little bit out of what they like to do. They can play more of their base defense, a lot of that nickel and everything, and have success against this Chiefs team, right? They don't have to get out of character in terms of that. Now, okay, we lost Sal for a second. I can still hear you, right? You want to just go ahead and respond to that?
You can hear me. Yeah, I lost my internet here, whatever. Look, I think the Bills have what it's going to take to win in Kansas City. We talked about how they can dictate on offense, right? This is what they did tonight. They dictated this game and were able to pull it out. They can do the same thing against the Chiefs. The thing that the Chiefs do so well, though, Adam, is they are the most blessed team in football history outside of the Patriots. So the Bills are going to have to overcome some of that voodoo magic. That is part of the Chiefs' MO, right? There's no doubt about that. But I think the Bills, there's just a feeling with this team. I've got a destiny feeling about this Bills team. And this was a game tonight, Adam, where I think a lot of years they would have found a way to blow this thing. And they didn't. They found a way to win this game. Even when some of the things that happened tonight were going against them, they found a way to pull it out. I think they can go to – they're as well equipped to go to Kansas City and win as any team in the NFL could be. I'm talking AFC or NFC. Any team in the NFL, they're as well equipped to do it. They just have to overcome, like I said, the voodoo magic. You got a bunch of questions here. I can see those. If you want to answer those, we can go with that if you want.
All right, yeah, we can stay on here for a couple of more minutes. Again, Sal lost his camera, but that booming voice of his is still coming through loud and clear.
That's right, baby.
From Orchard Park. Let's see what we have. They're talking about the receivers here, how the coverage has the advantage in the snow. They improvised and played well. Michael Torres. Henry's a horrible guy to stop by any team. It's hard to contain and stop him. Milano did a great job in the defense. I would say that. I mean, I think, once again, you saw the difference that a healthy Matt Milano makes in this game tonight, don't you think?
Oh yeah.
Oh, there
yeah,
he is.
I think I'm back. Absolutely, Milano. Now I don't know, Adam, if he got hurt. Did he get hurt at the end? Because he was not on the field. Dorian Williams was on the field on that last drive, and
That's a good question.
We never got an announcement in the press box, and I don't think anybody asked McDermott in the locker or in the post game, but he was not on the field. So I'm wondering if something happened there. We'll find out tomorrow for sure. But I think when he was in there, yeah, I mean, look, Matt Milano at this stage of his career, there's going to be some good plays. Well, there's going to be a lot of good plays, and there's going to be a few bad ones. And there were a few bad ones in this game. He took a couple bad angles on a few Lamar Jackson scrambles, and they got hurt. But by and large, Matt Milano is a terrific player, and he did enough to help this team win this game. I thought Bernard played very well tonight for sure. But they're going to need Milano. I hope he's not hurt, because they're going to need him next week for sure. Somebody's talking about the receivers here too.
Yeah, I was going to say Bob R. I was just going to go there next.
Yeah.
I really need to see Coleman step up. Tonight, again, he was a non-factor. Hard to tell on TV. Was Baltimore blanketing the Bills wide receivers? Same thing with Cooper and Samuel.
Yeah.
Look, I think you can credit the Baltimore defense, but it's also, as we talked about earlier, how Buffalo chose to design things and execute things from an offensive standpoint. They were determined to run the football, maybe almost to a fault. I won't say almost to a fault, but I do think they could. There were opportunities in that secondary for the Bills to take advantage of it, I thought.
There were, and we've talked about this, Adam. I am not blown away by this Bills receiving corps. I mean, Khalil Shakir is terrific, and whenever Allen needs a play to be made, that's where he's going. I mean, the first throw of the game, the 34-yarder down the seam, Baltimore had just gone down, boom, boom, boom. They're up 7-0. Bills were immediately in I think it was 3rd and 8. And if they don't convert there and they got a punt, now already you're like in the first quarter here and things are not going to script. Khalil Shakir makes a great play. Guy is so clutch, but there's nobody else. Coleman was invisible. The only time you noticed him was when on the pass interference that he drew against Trey White, which, by the way, was a horrible call. It should have been called against Coleman. He was the one who pushed off. So that's all I saw of him. Amari Cooper, completely invisible. How many weeks have I gone now, Adam, by saying on this show, Amari Cooper is invisible? I mean, trade deadline acquisition, he was the guy who was supposed to change this receiving room. He hasn't. He's been completely underwhelming. He's been invisible for a month now. He didn't even have a catch tonight. I think he was targeted once, no catches. Curtis Samuel, 2 catches, 9 yards, I think it was. They need more next week. They're going to need the full complement on offense to beat the Chiefs. And I hope those guys show up and play.
Agreed. Michael Torres, without a doubt, not because I love the Bills, but the Bills are a better team now. Everyone mostly not hurt. Let's hope Milano is doing okay. He's referenced your comment just a second ago. Michael Reiner, listening to CBS, they basically said Baltimore lost the game rather than the Bills winning. What's your take on that? Look,
you got to make plays. Baltimore made some mistakes. Buffalo took advantage of them. I think Buffalo, won the game. Sure, Ravens helped them, and certainly the drop 2-point conversion certainly helped them. So there's a little bit of that I would buy, but look, Bills won the game, man.
No, I did. On 2 of the 3 turnovers, the Milano pressure, right, hurried Jackson, which led to the wrap interception, number 1. And then Terrell Bernard, what more could the guy do? Andrews makes the play, and he knocks it out and he recovers it. I mean, that's Buffalo that's Buffalo executing and making plays. So I'm not going to my take on it is that they had a direct hand in that. It's not just there were miscues from Baltimore, but Buffalo did a lot to create that. All right, a couple of more things here, and then we'll wrap it up for the night. Great play call on kicking the field goal, that from Michael Torres. Anything else, Sal, that you see that you want to comment on before we close this thing out?
Well, Michael's in here. He's got a lot of questions, which we love, and he's making some points. Bills have momentum. Yeah, they sure do. I mean, they played great last week against Denver, and they played well enough tonight against a really good team to pull out a victory. So, yeah, they certainly have momentum. Now, on the flip side, look, the Chiefs have played their best football this last month of the season, and then they take a 24-day layoff and come back and play well and beat Houston. So, they're going to be a bear. The Chiefs are always a bear. You don't make 7 straight AFC championship games without having a winning pedigree. So they're going to be a tough team for the Bills to go play at Arrowhead. But we've seen this before, not in the postseason, but the Bills have gone there, 3 times in the last 4 years and beaten them in that place, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah.
Why can't the Bills go in there and win? Of course they can.
No, they're extraordinarily well equipped. But the Chiefs are also a healthier team right now. So, it's interesting that you get to the AFC Championship game, and with both of these teams, that is clearly the case. All right, man, what's your plan overnight? Are you staying here in Western New York, or are you heading back to Rochester?
It is just starting to stop snowing here in Orchard Park. It was coming down. I mean, the field's completely covered now. It was snowing pretty hard. So I'm hoping I can get out of here and get home tonight. We'll see. When I get on the road, I'll make my decision if I'm going to stay over in Clarence or not.
All right, man. Great job, as always.
Right.
Sal Maiorana, Rochester Democrat, and Chronicle heading for Kansas City. We'll have this same coverage after the AFC title game. And, of course, a couple of preview shows starting on probably Wednesday and Friday of this week as we line up guests now. Bills and Chiefs after a 27-25 win in the divisional round. Buffalo over the Baltimore Ravens. Sal, thank you. Sal Maiorana, Rochester Democrat and Chronicle. I'm Adam Benigni, WGRZ-TV. More on this game and a look ahead to the AFC title matchup tomorrow night, Channel 2 Buffalo. I'll be joined by Vic Carucci and John Scott. As always, Sports Talk Live, 7 o'clock. We hope you join us for that. All right, Sal, good night. And everyone who's joined us here, thank you so much for taking part. Thanks for being with us here on Believe in Bills.